Hello and welcome to today's episode of Watch a Podcast or television show and analyze what they're talking about. Please excuse my appearance considering I've been working since 6 o'clock this morning while all of you have been relaxing, running around the U.S. Open looking all hot and bothered.
How will he look when he's 60?
Cue in the number 6. Trevor's extremely nervous. That's a nervous laugh. That doesn't bother me. I'm great.
Let's talk about your foundation. Let's talk about what you're doing. We see you out there. We see you talking about
Arms are crossed. He knows that he knows.
In a really interesting place. In that, a few years ago, I think the world was at like 49-50% of the world was, you could say the countries were democratic. They had elections. People won those elections. There was an exchange of power, etc. And now I think 70% of the world is living in a state where they either where it's a complete, autocracy, or it isn't a democracy. Two things again. One, why do you think the world has gotten there? If democracy,
The reason why the world has gotten there would be Barack Obama,
why does it seem like the world
which was the plan all along.
And then secondly, what can we do, or why should we then try and get back to this democracy?
If you look at the trend lines,
Trends,
I think,
globalization,
disrupted a lot of traditional
disrupted his plan.
societies.
What do you mean?
The global supply chain eliminates industries, eliminates jobs. increases,
Global supply chain eliminates jobs, which is what is happening. What was the attempt to show us what was happening, which was attempt to disrupt the supply chain, which is what the Biden administration has done. We had rumors that there were, what do you call them? Those canisters sitting on ships, waiting for the go-ahead to come off the ships because truck drivers in Canada were telling us that they didn't have jobs.
Yeah, not only between countries but within countries, right? So, and then modernity challenges
Use this fancy word.
Notions of religion and family and gender roles.
Religion, family, gender role, all of which are things that he's disrupted.
And you've got these culture clashes, right?
Black Lives Matter, culture classes.
You're in some village in Yemen, and suddenly your kid has a phone and it's looking at the Kardashian.
Has the audacity to talk about your children holding the cell phone, and it lets you know that he knows a way to get to you, which is from the cell phone, and then gives a shout out to one of his workers, the Kardashians.
Right, and you're so you get this vertigo, and
Realizes the vertigo that comes along with it.
what you've seen happen, I think, in a whole bunch of places, is essentially a pushback, a backlash to change that is happening too fast.
The backlash of change that is happening too fast. So he's literally telling you he's attempting to change American culture, which includes Black Americans, into demonic behaviors that he created.
For their comfort. And
For his comfort. Money.
And when people are pushing back against change, then they're vulnerable to politicians who say, you know what, I can make things just like it was back then.
That would be a great idea. So now what I'm up against is pushback from politicians who want to what? Have more power, have more control, have more money.
When
you
were feeling more important,
you were feeling more important.
had higher status.
And you had higher status, which is a mirror of actually what he felt, which is an accentuation of how he's speaking to let you know that you are the problem, not him.
You know, you didn't have people who don't look like you suggesting something.
He's suggesting that people don't look like him because now he's going to play the race card. However, there's a lot of real Black Americans located across the country. However, that man looks like a white man.
Somehow that, you know, you're doing something wrong. That somehow your traditions, you know, are flawed. And that
He's telling us our traditions are flawed.
appeal usually
This is my appeal.
Also involves saying the problems you're feeling are somebody else's fault. It's those folks there.
The problems are somebody else's fault. Yes, they are.
It's Muslim.
Because this is now him trying to become innocent. Which I'm telling you, it's a case-by-case basis. And in the case of the government system, it is your fault. It is the Muslim's fault.
And,
because he's Muslim.
And that then gets turbocharged with the information issues that we talked about.
Okay, well, you talked about some things on the side that we didn't hear. So what would that be?
And look, democracy requires, by definition, getting along with people who...
Democracy, by definition, is getting along with people. However, Black Lives Matter doesn't get along with people. So we're only supposed to get along with people who are in control, doing exactly what they say, which is not a democracy.
I agree with you. And the other thing that happens is these countries are becoming less homogeneous, right? And so you just...
Brings in the word homogeneous to imply genius to homo. It's a play on words, y'all. It's a brainwash.
Right-wing party in
underlining message, when the right wing is in charge, it's a party.
Sweden.
Wing! Wing is angel.
They're so chill and democratic, right?
They're chill and democratic, true.
But if you've got a whole bunch of immigrants coming in, suddenly people start getting nervous. And
just to let you know, the Democrats are the ones that invited the immigrants here. However, you noticed how in the beginning of this conversation, he specifically spoke about Republicans as if they were responsible.
And so part of what I think we have to do is to stand fast on the principles of equality and
stand fast on the principles of equality. However, he has no idea what equality actually means, but he's using equality as in better than.
And self-governance and representation, and everybody gets a seat at the table.
Everybody has a seat at the table.
But I think we have to also find a language and a story.
We have to recreate the language in the story, which he already is doing in this video.
A way of telling the story about how we can get to...
A way of telling the narrative, telling the story of how we can get there.
That does not threaten people who are uncomfortable with change as much.
That doesn't threaten those of you who are not comfortable with it and feel threatened. So while those of you who are feeling threatened, we have those that are not threatened. They're threatening the threatened.
And that's... You know,
so he's trying to tell them that they used to feel threatened, the poor people, but he's using them as a pawn in the chess game to go now abuse people who used to feel comfortable because they created that for themselves. And so then he gave money to these people who don't deserve it, didn't earn it, and then made them believe certain things, and now they're bullies to all of us.
It's going to be different for different countries, but...
And it's different for different countries, like Iran.
Worked with from Slovenia. She's part of our network.
Listen, Slovenia, he's worked with people from Slovenia, which are part of his network.
Who was an advocate for doing something about domestic violence. The laws of that country didn't have domestic violence. It was a real problem. Ran a referendum. It got crushed. And we worked with her.
Had a crush on him.
Maybe you want to talk to the people who didn't vote for him. So she goes out to these rural villages with these older, traditional, rural, very religious, very conservative.
How older people with religious blah blah? How does this have to do with, what do you call it? People who are domestic violence. How does that have? What does that have to do with anything?
Women, and just interview them and listen to them and talk to them. And it's not that they agreed with domestic abuse, it's that they thought their way of life was being challenged.
Right. Their way of life is being challenged.
A referendum again a few years later, and it passed. Right? Because she adopted the language that made them feel as if.
Adopted the language that made them feel safe. Meaning, if you're not in a country that you adopt the language of the culture, then you should not be the leader.
Okay, this is not so much of a earthquake, a huge change in how we live, but it's rather affirming our best values. Mm-hmm. And I think us
affirming the best values
in a consistent way.
Consistently.
But it's hard. Yeah. Look,
it's hard work trying to convince y'all that trans is normal.
Relatively recent vintage. It's a blip. Yeah.
It's a blip in society, but we're going to get their votes.
Nation, state, race, sect. That's typically been how we organize things, and it's always
innuendo.
Us versus them.
Us versus them, which is exactly how he feels.
What democracy demands is always a little bit more difficult.
It also feels like, when you observe it, there are two elements that I often see.
I cannot stand this guy, man.
Storytelling, as you said. It's often easier to tell a story of blame.
Yes.
Why are things going wrong? It's because of that person. It's simple. There's the person. We've solved it. Why are things going wrong? Well, there's a confluence of factors, and you have this, and you have the economy.
It's so obvious why things are going wrong.
For many people, and when you sell freedom, they go, I can't eat freedom. Yes. I can't buy a house with freedom. I can't, And then the second part is what you're talking about. The us versus the them, the who is and who isn't. Sometimes I think
what is that?
People, it feels like the populists come in and just do.
That would mean that he believes there's a separation in this country, that he's attempting to create even more vastness and separation.
Whether it is in Brazil, whether it's Bolsonaro, whether it's in America with Trump, they're just going to do. And whether they do or don't actually do it, it feels like they're going to do. But then some people go, but when we get the freedom people, they want to talk and they want to discuss, and it seems incremental and it seems like things won't change. Is there a way to combat that? Because it is a feeling a lot of the time.
Well, look, if you want to be a progressive, pluralist, tolerant Democrat, and I don't mean small d Democrat, I don't mean Democratic Party, you can't be a wuss. I mean, you've got to have a story with some swag. You got to be able to.
Here we go. This is him talking swag, and guess what happens? The whole audience cheers. So he got his little jump off in that moment from the audience. So they weren't listening the whole time, nor did they analyze anything. And then all of a sudden he talks about swag, and the entire audience cheers, and then he's got him hooked back into the vote.
And deliver.
And that's how you deliver, he says.
Call out the fact that what those folks say they're going to do, they almost never do.
And that would be his political party. They never do what they say they're going to do, which is an example of what he's trying to promote, which is the $1 billion Earth Save the Earth fund.
Because the truth of the matter is that when you look at, we have experiments, those countries that have
experiments have been done.
Everyone, and everybody participates, and there's consent.
Everybody participates in the abuse against me.
And people feel like, all right, this is working for us.
That's working.
Versus places that
dead.
failed states, the track record of democracy.
The track record's pretty high, they said.
Is pretty good, but we have to be forceful in making our.
We have to be forceful.
What is true is
That's not
that,
democracy.
we can't just talk. We gotta walk the walk.
So now he's promoting Black Lives Matter. We gotta walk the walk. Talk the talk, walk the walk.
Which is why we're having a forum in New York. One of the
Oh, look, a forum in New York for Motivan and Gary Vaynerchuk.
People are, when you think about, let's say here in the United States, there's greater appeal of right-wing populism.
There's a greater appeal of right-wing optimism. If that's the case, then why did the blue win the Senate again? That's because the election is a fraud.
A lot of communities, rural communities, that they're not wrong. That the economy, the global economy, has shifted away from them to urban centers, even in their own states.
So he's using words like rural and urban because most people don't know what rural means or urban. So he's closing down small businesses, is basically what he's saying.
So the opportunities in Austin,
and then he uses the word opportunity,
in Texas are different than in a rural community in East Texas. And people
uses Texas because Texas is on a border state.
Thinking about how are we delivering on behalf of people who's
how are we going to deliver this? He said.
Factory, who used to farm for a living and
used to farm for a living because corporate farmers took over.
And stability and security in those lives. So
then now there's a lot of fluff talk of using words like security and stability. However, he just told you that a farmer no longer is a farmer.
And now suddenly they don't feel as if they've got the lottery ticket.
Now all of a sudden they don't have a job and they don't have a lottery ticket.
That does have to be addressed.
And then y'all as BLM are going to lose your lottery ticket.
Right now you have, let's say, China coming in heavy presence.
Now he's bringing up China, which is all of his work. He's like, now you have China coming in as a heavy presence. Well, guess why, dude? Because you created that for us. Biden created that for us.
There's a lot of these countries providing a lot of foreign aid, a lot of strings attached, a lot of...
What does that mean, strings attached?
Chinese workers coming in to build big buildings.
Really? All this new info.
If we're not there, if we're not helping build that road, if we're not there to build that port, then naturally people are going to start thinking, well, maybe that's a recipe for bettering my life, as opposed to
recipe. Now he's lost you. What are you talking about? China coming in to build a building and something about some recipe. If we don't do it, somebody else is going to come in. Do you get that there's not a lot of substance in that conversation?
Yeah, flowery language, but it has nothing behind it.
Right.
Exactly.
I wonder though, do you think inclusive capitalism is somewhat of a paradox? You know, it feels like
it's possible.
It feels you think it's possible because it feels like capitalism is designed
not with you guys in charge.
As possible from every single interaction that it can.
Look,
no, I won him over. I'm good.
Yeah, Sweden and some of the
I
problems.
gotta sweeten him up, see?
On the other hand, you look at Scandinavian countries; they're capitalist countries.
Now let's look at Scandinavia, another one of my partners.
Very well.
But some people would argue that their foundation.
I know them very well.
Socialist, and then they go with it's almost like they go we're socialist first, and then capitalism is our undercurrents.
Not really.
Breaks up that energy.
People are taxed more and they have more common goods.
Right.
People are taxed more and they have more common goods.
At a job and you get paid. And, you can't. It's not like you're going into the store just grabbing whatever you want, walking up.
It's not like you're walking into the store and grabbing whatever you want. However, that is the occurrence of us here in America at this time because of the Democrats.
But the
I see it. I see it, friend. You got to pay for it, right? Then the guy at the cash register is checking.
He thinks it's funny, actually.
Right, but the reason I'm asking that is because, and maybe it's the words that fail us sometimes. I often, I'll talk to my friends about this. I go, it's interesting that we sort of stopped. Right. We went, there's socialism, there's this, there's the communism, there's capitalism, and then we just stopped. We're like, this is it, there's capitalism, and that's it. I sometimes wonder, is there not something better? Is there not something we could be moving
I think there is.
towards? And maybe I should be asking, what is inclusive
The
capitalism?
reason I just
He doesn't
used,
answer any questions. Just like his little drones on the stage.
Denmark is an example.
Mhm.
Is
Now
not
Denmark.
because it's going to work perfectly in India, the United States, etc. The point
India
though
is his partner.
They've got some blend, some mix,
Right.
right?
It's mixed.
There is an advantage in terms of efficiency and also freedom to a market system.
Okay.
Right? You have a control
What?
system. You know, some guy in an office is deciding how many potatoes we're going to grow this year. That usually doesn't work.
Right.
Doesn't usually make sense to have someone choose from an office how many potatoes are going to be grown. However, you have to have paperwork.
Flip side of it is that what we've also learned is that if some guy in a boardroom is deciding I'm going to ravage the environment to do whatever I want, that doesn't work either.
Right.
So we're going to have a blend of some sort. We want some collective decision making,
This is all lies, by the way.
the social good,
Mm-hmm.
and we want something that's efficient and dynamic and allows us to exercise our innovation.
He wants to exercise the innovation. Do you get how fluff talk this is and how this is detrimental to society?
And we don't need to worry so much about the labels as we do about
He created the labels, and now he's backpedaling out of the labels.
being practical and thinking about what's working and what isn't. And this is
So now he's figuring out, he's trying to flip the lid to get the rest of you on board, because he's already got the trans kids on board.
It's not just the mechanics of elections or the independent judiciary. Those things are all important, but this is why this information and media issue is so important, because what we've seen here in the United States and elsewhere is a abandonment of a commitment to facts and reason and logic.
Let me remind you that he is the one that started this ability for the media to create the disinformation board, and then he has utilized it for the campaign of the Democratic Party, which is fake news, which is everything Trump called him out on. And so now that I'm able to express truth, which is exactly why he's pissed off, he's calling me disinformation board.
Stuff that is useful.
Someone say necessary.
Necessary.
Useful and necessary.
If we can't have a debate based on facts, then we can't get to.
If we can't have a debate based on facts. Okay, so let's get this straight. So you're lying to all of us, telling us that none of the things that we're seeing on the news is true. However, we're not allowed to have debates about it because you say it's not true. However, we're being told that it's true. And you want to already get how confusing I'm about to get, even trying to explain to you how confusing that is. You're not allowed to have any debates.
Better solutions, right? We start talking in slogans and nonsense, and there's no reality check. We just make stuff up.
He makes stuff up.
You know, there's something broken over there. And it doesn't, and it's impervious to facts.
Mm-hmm.
So part of what I think, why I've been spending a lot of time thinking about this information issue is how do we, and how we.
You should put me on the Daily Show.
In either industry standards or regulation of these social media platforms. How do we get back to the point where
He is the one that made the law, y'all. Because now, remember what I told you he was going to do? He's going to try to step in as the hero.
you can have opinions, and we all do, but facts matter, and proof matters, and
He is so, like, in a boat and it's full of water.
and say, you know what, if we do things this way, it might work better, and you may disagree, but at least we agree to a set of rules whereby we can arrive at a better solution.
Do you think it's possible to get to that place when almost half? Let's just talk about the.
No, not with Obama.
Country says,
Not with Biden. Not with Kamala. Not with the Senate.
Why are we having this conversation? You are not even affected. How do you? I honestly mean, how do you get to that place with people?
The interesting thing is, even in those places that are just inundated with what I consider to be nonsense and lies and
Lies.
distortions.
I'm a liar, he says.
When people operate in their own lives, they're still operating on facts, right? On their jobs.
When they're operating in their own lives, they're operating on their own facts. So now he's trying to bring in philosophical discussions.
In their kids' little
Kids?
league or their soccer game or football game, they don't let the ref just kind of say,
So basically he's telling us that you should speak up.
you know what, this time we're just going to get 5 points for the touchdown. It's like, wait.
There are rules and laws, he's saying, but only to certain people.
And folks on the sideline say, no, it's 6 points for the touchdown, and then you get the extra point. And so we abide by all kinds of facts in our own lives. It's just this national story that is being told.
A national story. Wow, really? I'm a national story?
Lies to be told, and we accept them mainly because it turns out that when we tell a story about the other side, it makes us feel better. It's like,
Oh, so he likes telling stories about the other side that makes him feel better.
you know, Trevor, he's a jackass. You should see.
Well, he doesn't like you, I guess.
And me.
And so we enjoy the performative aspects.
You like my dancing then?
And part of that is because we don't think there are consequences to it. Now,
He's threatening me.
From the election of my successor, from the pandemic,
The election of my success.
from the insurrection is actually the stories we tell do matter.
The insurrection? That would be me.
Baseline of sticking to the truth.
The truth is that I died and came back to life.
Stories about our country.
And he killed me on a multiple levels with his friends, all enjoying and laughing.
And I like to think that part of what happened in this election is people said, okay, you know what, some of this stuff's getting a little too crazy.
We're talking about the Senate here. Now it's being found that this Senate election is a fraud.
It turns out that there is a majority of the country that does prefer normal, not crazy.
He's trying to be the hero. Most majority of the country prefer normal. However, he's calling you not normal. And who uses the word normal? Who says the normals? Thanks, guys.
And that's a basis for hope.
And I'm the basis for hope. Thank you. You're welcome.
It has been wonderful having you here, though. It's also been wonderful seeing, what you're getting up to. Because after I had the pleasure of interviewing you at the White House just before you left, and then afterwards.
It's really interesting to see before and after. Hold on, I want you to make sure.
I loved it, by the way.
I'm going to make sure I post this.
I often wonder, what is Mr. President going to do next? Where does he go?
Ex-president.
Shows about issues around the world, and now you've got this forum. I wondered if maybe, you have any tips for me as,
Here we go.
Well, because you and I, we're basically the same, we're basically the same.
No, actually, no, you're way better than he is.
I think you're going to have to really focus on relearning things, like driving.
Relearn things?
What was the last time we were at the dry cleaners?
53rd Street. That's how I go. I take it myself. Yeah, we're very. You don't. You're very like. That's like I said. You Mr. President forever. You have Secret Service forever. That's correct,
Well,
right?
I do, and
Ooh, I wonder what they are up to.
I think I have to keep my hoodies after this.
I still am in a bubble. I thought I could escape it. Quick story since we're in New
Well,
York.
technically, he's running the country
I used to
still.
say, oh, you know what? Once I get out of here, I'm gonna just be able to walk through Central Park, and it's gonna, and I'll just put on a baseball cap, and it's gonna be fine. And Yeah, Michelle's all like, yeah, okay. Good luck with that. And the first time I tried it, I got like half a block. And then suddenly there was
He
a
loves the
storm
fame.
and phones and traffic stopping and
He loves celebrity.
it didn't work. So,
You know, I might be an actor or something.
I guess what I would say, though, is that you will be missed here. But,
You're not going anywhere.
but we were talking backstage. You're already following one piece of advice that I would have is leave when your poll numbers are high.
Leave when your poll numbers are high.
So,
I'm actually, yeah, I'm excited. I'm gonna go on the road.
There's something in that.
I mean, I've said this to you before.
Yeah.
Whether it's the White House Correspondents' Dinner in Georgia when you're doing the speech, you're a very funny guy.
So you want me to open for you?
I do not think he's funny at all.
You know what? Why don't you open? I wouldn't dare. You could call, you can't open for me. You're still Mr. President. We just do like a, a co-headlining tour. You know what I mean? We'll call it half and half. You know what I mean?
Ugh, God, I hate his guts. Good job, Trevor.